Guys, you don't want to believe it. What a race it was today. From the beginning to the end, non-stop action. The McLarens gave us one of the best races of the season. 24 laps chasing after each other. Like there was no fire. And the whole fire stations were like, we're ready. It was a great race, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to this episode of Austrian GP at the Red Bull Ring in the Styrian Hills of Austria. We started the race with the news that Favour had to leave to his home to take care of personal matters. We hope he's not, as a result of the rumor flying around about his leaving the team. I think it's still the hope I feel Ferrari has, if they can change a lot of things, especially their mindset. I think he's still the right guy for the job. And also, Carlos Sainz could not start the race. What a hula baloo at the beginning of the race. On the formation lap, his car was not moving at all. They had to just push it. When the drivers were coming back directly behind him, his car moved. He was able to enter into the transmission system. He ran back, and for such a thing happening, there had to be a new formation lap, and he had to get into the pit lane to start. Right going into the pit lane, the brakes were locked up, and I think the reason why the transmission was not moving at first was because of the brake lockup, and the two rear brakes were on fire. That was the end of the race for Carlos Sainz. What a bad moment for him. His teammate also had issues during the race, so the Williams were unable to get any point today. Let me step into the Red Bull. I made a video some time ago that Red Bull without Max is nothing. See, seriously, we saw what happened today. Yuki Tsunoda qualified in a bad position yesterday, 18th. Yuki Tsunoda was under pressure, made a whole lot of mistakes, got a 10-second penalty for his efforts. He had the collision with Colapinto. Himself and Colapinto were just on a high level all through the race today. They were just flinging blows, flinging straws, flinging anything flingable against themselves. But for Red Bull, this shows Red Bull might end this season 4th position, 5th in the Drivers' Championship, which would be one of the worst for them. If they go on this trend they are going, one car for 2 drivers. The car they are even having, they are struggling with the car. Max Verstappen said after the race that even if they were in the race, they are not sure they'll be able to compete because they don't have the speed. And we saw that yesterday. The closest team to McLaren from yesterday qualifying looks like Ferrari. Every other person were distanced away. They are like sun to the moon against the McLaren, which shows that even with the technical directives, McLaren have found a way around everything. They are just unstoppable. A no point for Red Bull today means the last 77 races, I'm not sure they have been in that position, but now they're in that position is going to be crazy. No point. So there will be pressure on Chris Horner because naturally they've said it over time that they don't need 2 racing drivers, they only need 1. And that's why they sent Checo Perez packing now. So if they're ending 4th, I don't see anything against it because they are their own architect of their own great downfall. So they have a lot to do. McLaren, great racing from beginning to the end. They gave us beautiful racing. They started 1st, 3rd, and then the race 1st, 2nd. Right from the beginning of the race, from turn 1, they are 1-2, and they ran the race 1-2. But there's still a lot to do because they nearly took themselves off, like I said earlier, and they showed that they are just miles away from every other person. Going to Silverstone, let's see if upgrades other teams bring. Teams like Ferrari, probably Mercedes will close them up, but I'm not seeing that. And to Mercedes, they were years away today. At the end of the race, the Mercedes were over a minute away from McLaren and 33 seconds away from Lewis Hamilton that was in 4th position. 33 seconds away from Lewis Hamilton in 4th position. That is that's like half of that track, and that is a bad one for Mercedes because we thought they had a good pace, but they never had a good pace. The pace was not there. Qualifying, they were not there. Only one driver in the race. They came 5th. Kimi Antonelli, a bad start for him, trying to overtake. The swift one locked up, took Max Verstappen out. The 2 drivers out of the race. Lap 1, turn 4. Mercedes needs to ask themselves the questions when they miss it. Probably they are bringing upgrades to Silverstone, but how does that upgrade translate or transpire into racing? Because I don't see how they can quickly close that gap. Great racing for Sauber today. They did a wonderful race. Bortoleto scoring his 1st point of his career in F1. The championship winner in F2 last year, race 11. And having a goal on his manager, that is Fernando Alonso. They had a big tussle and he really outshone himself today. The only engine that worked perfectly in those high altitude in Austria was Ferrari engine. At the point, we were afraid that the McLaren engine will go ballistic when we saw the Williams out. But as wonderful race for them. But Sauber got to let us did a perfect race. He started in a good place yesterday and he was able to push himself. Today he ran a beautiful race, got some maximum points for the team. Driver of the day for him because he deserves it. Nico Hülkenberg also got some decent pace. He was unable to really gather some big points, but he was there right in the race doing a perfect job for the team. and helping his teammates secure good points for the team, which is a good one. So Sauber are not in the last position now. Alpine are in the last position. The two drivers struggled from beginning to the end. They had no pace, they had no lift, they were just in the mix, shaking in the race. Alpine needs to find a team principal as soon as possible because they've really regressed since Oliver Hawks left. And in this race, Gasly struggled. Colapinto was just an accidental purpose. That was what he did all through the race. Got a 5-second penalty for his stress, almost ending Piastri's race. And to us, perfect race for them, though they struggled, but the Ferrari engine behind them was doing the perfect thing for them. Ocon and Bierman did a wonderful racing, which was great for them, and I think they still have a lot to learn. Going to Silverstone, a different track, a different terrain from where they are coming from. Let's see if the upgrades they have in the last two races will push them or propel them, but they did a good race. So now to Ferrari. Upgrades, I think they worked because the Ferrari didn't bring upgrade, I think. McLaren would just have had a perfect race off. Nobody will be able to take on McLaren today. They would have been like over a second away from everybody. They might even lap everybody in the race, showing their dominance because it was an extreme dominance for them. Ferrari did a good job. Lewis Hamilton said he's still struggling with the balance of the car because the main balance of the car comes from the rear. The rear is still not giving. There was a time in the race that he lost it. He could not control the car. But he said he was still struggling with the balance. His teammate is having an enjoyable race. Started second, came third, which is a good point for Ferrari. Back-to-back podiums for them. Lewis Hamilton still no podium, but good qualifying for him. Qualified fourth, finished the race fourth. Had a big fight with George Russell, the on and off, but Lewis Hamilton showed consistency, showed that he had more experience. So I think George Russell, what about him fighting his teammates, him being a better driver than Lewis Hamilton? Should be given now when he's seeing what he's doing against Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari, which I think Ferrari's upgrade worked, but they should still be in the same pace with the Mercedes. But the Mercedes, with the cooling package they brought, could not maintain that heat. That heat was so extreme for them. I don't know what is always wrong with Mercedes in Austria, but McLaren are coping in Austria. The last 3 races in Austria, this race and the last 2, they started their upgrowth, their perfection in 2023 in Austria, and we saw them 2024 the challenge Red Bull. For me, I think if McLaren can get it done, even Aston Martin can find a balance. What is wrong with Mercedes that they can't find that balance both in Mexico and Austria? It would be a shame for them if they go to Silverstone, which is their home race, and they cannot perform. It's going to be a big shame for Mercedes. But to McLaren, let's hope the rear they bring next week in Silverstone will be a rear that work for them and give them a perfect racing. But the 2 drivers did the job. McLaren won 2, Ferrari 3-4, George Russell 5, and that was a perfect race for them because probably if Antonelli and Max Verstappen had not collided, probably I think they would have been up for good points. The 2 Mercedes, and Yuki Tsunoda would not have been under pressure. But at the end of the day, Constructors' Championship, the Red Bull are like 250 something points away from McLaren. How do they close up? 47 points away from Mercedes. Ferrari are leading Mercedes by 1 point, which I think as this goes from what we are seeing, there's a probability that Ferrari are the second best team. They have huge pace in that car, but they cannot bring it to the track, maybe because of upgrade, and we are seeing them bringing upgrades. Hopefully it works, but it's going to be a big ask for Mercedes and Red Bull this season if Ferrari are going on this trajectory. Though they've not gotten a pole or a win, but they've had podiums. Maybe they are evolving, but let's see how that translates into their races. Alonso, huge opportunity spotted. Great racing for him. A one-stop strategy that worked for him, and he did a good race, and I think that is one of the biggest jumpers right in the race today. Fernando Alonso, his teammate Lance Stroll got it bad from the beginning of the race. He went to the back and he was part of those strugglers, and I think he came in probably 14th or 13th, which is not a good point for him, but I think they need to work hard. They have the car now in which he's performing, but the 2 Aston Martins to find a balance to work hard to get that car in the points. And I also think McLaren needs to start talking to their drivers now to find where they don't make mistakes and where these drivers don't compromise races. We saw it happen in Canada. We saw it almost happen in Austria. Will Silverstone be different? After the break, we will see any difference. I don't know, but the McLaren needs to start working it easy so that it doesn't take toll on the drivers and it doesn't destroy their own races. They need to work hard and see where the balance is. Going to Silverstone, some upgrades are coming, but McLaren clearly are the benchmark. Let's see how they transfer this great victory for them into the next victory in Silverstone. But watch it out. It's going to be a perfect and beautiful race in Silverstone. And this weekend will be another big fight in Silverstone for us, because you cannot just take it away from McLaren and probably Ferrari, because Ferrari are coming with upgrades that, and the rear works, they might get close to McLaren, and it's going to be a very big competitive sport for them and competition for us to watch. Next race in Silverstone, it won't just be inter-team race between Oscar Piastri and his teammate Lando Norris, but it might be between 2 teams, 4 drivers, and probably 3 teams, 6 drivers. But up onto the next race in Silverstone. I've said earlier, the season is getting much more interesting, bulkier, bunchier, and these drivers are putting their life on the line to make sure they give us best racing we can ever get. Don't miss that race. You don't want to miss it. I love you guys. Bye. Cheers.